America has always loved to kiss the feet of its circus performers. We go to see their big movies, we anticipate their album releases, we flood their social media, we glorify and attribute massive significance to the way they live their lives. In this country, a country which holds money as its god above all else, they are deities. The golden cash cows which loom over the masses as great symbols of aspiration and status. Traditionally, this has been because of some perceived skill, an exceptionality which makes them the leader of their field in the arts, entertainment, sciences, or what have you. But since the dawn of the 21st century, and even more so since the birth of social media, a new class of celebrity has emerged: the do-nothing celebrity. Those people who have no skills, are not perceived as having any skills, and do not presume to have any. Those people whose only distinction is their ability to make money if they weren't already born with it, and to look good while doing it. The lowest, most crass form of capitalist icon. But with recent events, a new attitude has emerged toward our chrome-plated, veneer-lined, shiny red carpet class, an utter, brazen, and heartfelt disgust for the people who rule our TVs, magazines, and feeds, a disdain for the cornucopia of narcissists who suppose themselves to be at the forefront of our cultural development, and a recognition that what separates them from mundanity is not in large part meritocratic, but rather a strain of psychopathy which is distinct to them, a political network comprised of those among us who are the most profoundly inhuman, a revelation of the true nature and character of the wealthy, famous, and connected, which sits behind a thin, golden mask. In modern society, celebrities are criticized possibly more than anyone, and not unfairly. They are a cabal of flashy megalomaniacs who serve as the poster boys for the causes of the less flashy, but more connected, true elite who sit above them. For the most part, only the lowest common denominator among us have ever truly revered these plastic holograms. But there was a time when the most famous in our society were known primarily not for their looks or their net worth, but for their talent, their ability to innovate in ways that were profound and expert. And there have always been the sex symbols, the Marilyn Monroes and James Deans, the 1/3 talent, 2/3 beauty people who are known for their craft but loved for their image. But as time went on, and the American entertainment industry grew, cash flowed in the direction of beauty, not of talent, and so the celebrity world became a game of aesthetics over substance. It could be argued that this was always the case, that beauty has always been prized over brilliance, and that geniuses have always been few and far between, the convenient missteps of the celebrity production pipeline. But regardless, by the time America had moved from the beginning of the 20th century and the birth of the film industry, through the rise of pop music in the mid-century, and finally into the close of the millennia with reality TV, tabloid magazines, and publicly available internet, the deification of the so-called superstar was ubiquitous. The glamorous pull of big personality made too much money to resist. Looks began to be manufactured. The appearance of authenticity, forged out of proven formulas, and attention, but more importantly influence, monetized. These people, or more accurately, these images and idyllic concepts, began to plaster the walls of children's bedrooms. Modern media allowed the manufactured public images of these people to be disseminated throughout our culture. Our athletes and action stars taught boys a performative masculinity. Our models and pop stars taught girls a performative femininity. Both were taught that these identities are dependent on consumption. Both were made to be insecure, their very concepts of self relying on false realities and brand alignment. We were given fake art, fake books, and fake music, all teaching limp ethics, good citizenry, agreeable persona, and worship of the status quo. And for those who would resist these limitations, neutered imitations of rebellion. Anything but dismantling thought. Anything but class consciousness. Anything but threatening the bottom line. Money first, always. This is not art, this is not life, and this is not culture. Whatever happens, do not give them the idea of real change. Whatever happens, always more of the same. the celebrity. That is the pinnacle. Money and the self, money and the self. If they ask for more, give them science. Materialism is the highest enlightenment. To think anything else would be troglodytic. Big money makers and paparazzi dreams. Beverly Hills is the mountaintop. More sex appeal, more flamboyance, more money. Do not take your eyes off the prize. Whatever you do, don't look away. Everything you need is right here. Around the world, this A-list of actors, musicians, and athletes were heralded as nearly superhuman, flown on private jets, catered to in opulent mansions, and as time went on, this group of people became not simply overpaid, but massively, catastrophically, and nearly inconceivably overvalued. And as we get closer and closer to the present day, we can see this irrational and quite dramatic sign of not only wealth inequality, but also of our culture's increasingly imbalanced values begin to show. This wealth goes not to our teachers, or firefighters, or public service programs, but to our entertainers, the ones who keep us distracted and sedated with their never-ending dance. The icons teach expenditure and vapidity. What is revealed is that our celebrity worship lies at the heart of America's problem. By the year 2000, something began to change. With the growth of social media, celebrities became accessible. And when they became more accessible, they became transparent. Celebrities naturally took to social media as it grew in an effort to remain relevant, and this allowed us to see into their lives, into their unscripted, unchoreographed, and unfiltered behavior. Of course, this too was managed and presented to convey certain images, but only so much can be done to hide one's true character in the world of live streaming. In this context, something about the celebrity class was revealed to us. These people are posturing, insincere counterfeits of authentically good human beings. Bad imitations at best, mask-off personality disorders at worst. These people use virtue as a marketing tactic and social causes as promotional mechanisms. They are the subliminal salesmen, promoting the continuance of the system we live in. But when seen up close, at home, in real life, with their families, the mirage vanishes. These are not real people, and they are not what they present themselves to be. They are full-time politicians, networking, manipulating, fence-sitting, and pantomiming their way through life. They are CEOs of the companies they call themselves, and they will never let the investors see a hint of ebbing confidence. And in the overexposing light of our social media feeds, the public can see them for the emotionally disfigured reptilian oddities that they truly are, for those of us who still doubted it. But when the true nature of people like this begins to be revealed, the result is more than a simple recognition of their amoral worldview by the public. The result is a growing resentment, a new understanding that the people who occupy our zeitgeist and billboards are, and maybe always have been, devoid of not only artistic integrity, but even basic human integrity as well. And as this suspicion grows, and there begins a conscious recognition by the masses that these people have no love for anything but money and receiving worship, the resentment continues to build. A resentment based on the understanding that the status of most of these celebrities is not based truly on talent, but on banality and accessibility to the masses. What becomes apparent then is that talent is effectively irrelevant. Not that these people possess no talent, but that talent is only a prerequisite. Talent can be found in at least one person on every street corner. Skills can be fostered and developed. There is no magic involved. Brilliance has a formula of time and devotion. What makes these people viable as celebrities is their capacity for venality, nepotism, egoism, and a willingness to support and participate in exploitation. This is the only true cost of admission. On January 30th of 2026, the U.S. Department of Justice released over 3 million pages of evidence relating to the Epstein case, including photos and videos. With this new trove of information, hundreds of well-known figures were implicated in the case. many with seemingly incontrovertible evidence. As of now, almost nothing concrete has been done to prosecute these individuals. The Department of Justice continues to deliberately interfere with attempts at progress, unsurprisingly. And many of those revealed were not exactly what you would call red carpet icons, not tabloid material at least. But what it did show us is that the people who run this world, those who control its biggest businesses and our governments and who generally manipulate the course of life on Earth, are quite universally psychopathic, evil in ways that are unfathomable to the mind of a fully formed human being. They are corrupt with not simply an idle narcissism, but a vindictive, calculating lack of remorse, which is their truest nature. They are psychopaths, full-blown and without exception. They are a curated class of blue blood killers, satanic by definition and practice. And these people, who control the heads of music labels and movie studios and overall media groups, are the owners, arbiters, and puppeteers behind the celebrity class which sits directly beneath them. They are the demons behind our false gods. What was proven with the Epstein files was not simply that the elite are infinitely corrupt, but that they are in full control of the people who influence us, the figures whom our children idolize. To be a true celebrity is to understand your role as a salesman for the advancement of elite corruption and to operate accordingly. Cryptocurrency is an industry which causes environmental damage, has a tendency toward extreme volatility, poses serious security risks, does not protect its consumers, lacks regulation, and is a hotbed for illegal financial activity. The crypto market is also littered with scams, two of the most famous of which involved Logan Paul with CryptoZoo and Haley Welch with Hawk. But they are not even close to the only public figures who have been involved in crypto. Since 2018, Matt Damon, Tom Brady, Floyd Mayweather, DJ Khaled, Larry David, Reese Witherspoon, and Kim Kardashian have all been involved in varying degrees with crypto scams. My point has nothing to do with crypto. My point is that this is the type of influence that celebrities hold over many people's minds. In the case of CryptoZoo, an estimated $7.7 million was lost because people trusted Logan Paul. It should be acknowledged that anyone who would trust Logan Paul is, of course, deeply stupid, but the point remains. Consciously or unconsciously, many of us trust these people. Many of us see them as superior, whether because of perceived abilities, looks, finances, or just their general public persona. These things are in large part fallacies. Abilities can be exaggerated, looks can be simulated, finances can be falsified, personas can be manipulated, and all of these things certainly will be done if it serves a financial agenda. These celebrities, of course, know the influence they have, and they know that by promoting things like this, they may be putting people at risk, whether because of desperation or stupidity. The best that can be said for this sort of behavior, then, is that they simply do not care. They may not agree with the things they support, but they do it for the paychecks. So at best, they are amoral, the condoners who allow exploitation to go unchecked and evil to grow in this world. Abraham Joshua Heschel, a 20th century Jewish philosopher who was expelled from Germany by the Nazis in 1938 and who lost his mother and 3 sisters to the concentration camps, said this: "Indifference to evil is more insidious than evil itself. It is a silent justification affording evil acceptability in society." I am not trying to conclude that crypto scams are comparable to the Holocaust, but what I am trying to say is that when celebrities behave in this sort of way, they indicate something to us, whether intentionally or not. They show us that money is their bottom line, and when money is your bottom line, you are effectively indifferent to what may come. And if a person can be bought for one thing, what is there to indicate that they cannot be bought for another? Why should it be beyond our expectation that these people are fully bought and paid for, a set of fancy puppets for elite interest? And if this is the case, should resistance to their influence not be expected? During his trial for treason in 1649, King Charles I argued that what was being tried was not the king, but the very status of the king, the concept of kingship itself. Is it possible, then, that when we cancel our celebrities, when we try them in the court of public opinion, what we are really trying is the very concept of celebrity itself, even if unconsciously. Is it possible that we do not really care about the specific incidents of celebrities saying cruel things or treating people poorly, things we already would have assumed they do, so much as the very fact that they've been put into a position where they feel these behaviors are acceptable, that they can live in a world where everything from their self-centeredness to their most sadistic impulses can go unchallenged? These people do not operate like people in the real world because they cannot. They do not exist in the real world because they exist fundamentally within the illusion of celebrity. And because they do not exist in the real world, they cannot operate convincingly as if they do. These are people who are helpless to the disease of their own narcissism and could not be truly human even if they wanted to and tried with every ounce of their being. Their environment corrupts them. The way they are treated, like modern kings and queens who are not expected to lift their own feet, corrupts them. The way the public treats them corrupts them. The way they are complimented at every turn as a way of schmoozing by those of lower status corrupts them. The way that, with the more money they make and the more influence they have, the less they have to pay for things, corrupts them. The way that they can be hired for a job that takes less than a day and pays enough to cover several mortgages corrupts them. Seeing their own face on media across the nation corrupts them. It is a hugely absurd experience which not even a king from 1,000 years ago would have experienced, and it cannot be helped that it inflates their self-worth. They are corrupted by day and night, at home and abroad, by friends and family, at work, if one can even call it that, as no job in the world can justify the money they're given, and at leisure. They are hopelessly subordinate to their psyches, and maybe this is why they are put on trial. Because we have begun to see the monsters we create through the intoxication of celebrity, and we see the damage which can be done when influence is combined with indifference. When money is the highest priority, you will always serve the wealthiest person in the room. So we can see in the light of day, these are not icons, these are not role models, these are the lowest of stomach-turning criminals. These are slugs and vermin. These are the human equivalent of the sort of things you find on the bottom of your shoe. If hell was ever built, it was built for these people, each and every one. The ones who cheerlead the destruction of our world and only speak against it when it's cost-effective. The ones who cry for the world from their gilded hilltop ivory towers and do the dance of ethics on their PR campaigns. The ones who align always with the politicians and never the people because the people disgust them and the people scare them. The ones who will never stop talking when it looks good on their Instagram and the opinion is safe for their customer base. The people who go where the money goes, who support what the money supports. An actor should be just an actor, not a super rich global investor. An athlete should just be an athlete, not a politician. A musician should just be a musician, not a hedge fund manager. Enough with the sports icons and movie icons and music icons. Tear it all down. Raze it to the ground. No more of the low-frequency entertainment propaganda. No more of the theatrical demigods while the whole world suffers. So what is to be done then? How are we to free ourselves from the chokehold they have on our culture and to put the arts, the music, the influence of creativity back into the hands of ordinary people so that it can be sheltered and protected by its community against corruption and conflict of interest? We can invest our time, our money, our attention, and affection into our local independent art scenes. We can go to see independent films and theater performances instead of blockbusters. We can cancel our streaming services. We can refuse to engage with the red carpet class on social media. We can look to local performances and distributors for our music. We can connect personally with our local artists to show support, not for them as people, but for the work they do. We can visit local galleries and read local writers. We can build something that lives at home among the people who care about it, so that we do not have to live in a world bombarded by the images of these subhuman, dog-headed influencers, the money-grubbing scum who prostitute their lives at the cost of their dignity, the pathetic psych cases who fill our dialogue, the people who got where they are because they are psychopaths and stay where they are because they are psychopaths. We cannot, in an immediate sense, overthrow these people, of course, but we can, bit by bit, over time, and with cohesive dedication, restructure our lives and our communities so that we do not have to be burdened by the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio, who's co-financing a luxury hotel in Tel Aviv, like Steph Curry, who through his personal investment firm has invested in Israeli cybersecurity, like Kevin Durant, who's invested in the US-based surveillance drone company Skydio, which supplies drones to the IDF, like the plethora of other celebs who have publicly voiced support for Israel and the documented genocide they're committing. We will not take away their money, or their connections, or even their status, but we can build subcultures in which they are not relevant. We can unplug and begin to live in the real world and not the synthetic reality constructed for us. We can be mindful of our consumption so that our blood goes less and less to the leeches. We can be conscious of advertising, propaganda, and subliminal messaging. We can strengthen our bonds with the people around us so that the people we admire sit with us at dinner, so that our role models and ideals and inspirations are localized and tangible. And most importantly, we can exist here and now, because true reality is not subject to their corruption. There is one issue which I have so far failed to address. That is the role of hierarchy in this equation, the role of power and the human condition. As satisfying of a narrative as it is to paint celebrities as some villainous alien species and be done with it, as I have effectively done so far, that would completely miss the fundamental issue, human nature. The problem is not simply that there is some inherent psychopathy lying within anyone who has ever gotten famous, which they use to their advantage, although that is likely the case in many instances. The problem is what inevitably happens to someone who's given unlimited wealth and unlimited power. As we know from the countless times it has been proven throughout history, absolute power corrupts absolutely. You may believe there is something wrong with these people inherently. I certainly do. That in order to, quote-unquote, do what it takes, some type of pre-existing personality disorder is necessary. I'm quite sure that if you tested for mental health conditions among aspiring stars compared with the general public, the contrast would be sky high in favor of the aspiring stars. But regardless, the heart of the issue is less clean and less satisfying. It is a broader philosophical question which we have never been able to answer. How do we escape our tendency toward building hierarchy when it is ingrained not only in us, but most everything which exists in the known world? How do we resolve our instinct for competition and dominance when it is so primitively a part of us? How can we acknowledge and give weight to contrasts in skill without creating unstable power dynamics? These questions have plagued our species forever, and we have so far never met with a universally acceptable answer. But there is one question which we have been able to answer. How do we resist these power structures once they have been irreversibly established? The answer, of course, is to tear it all down and start over. What will that future bring? We don't know. Most likely, a new and equally unjust hierarchy which we will have to someday treat with the same disdain. This seems to be the inescapable cycle we find ourselves trapped within. But the cyclical nature of our predicament does not mean we should not move forward. With every winter, there is a spring. The only thing which can be done now is to come together and, metaphorically of course, annihilate it. Mock them, ridicule them, slander them, and disgrace them. Drag their reputations through the mud and spit on the content they produce. Defecate relentlessly on what is popular. Where cancel culture went wrong, aside from the fact that its implementation was a strategy to retain control among establishment Democrats, was to persecute these people for their perceived misdeeds. What we need to do is persecute these people for their very existence, to challenge the very concept of celebrity itself. They flaunt their wealth and status over a dying America. They insult us with their very existence, so let us seek our retribution. We cannot take their money, but we can take their pride. We can take their will to be seen, because everyone, no matter how narcissistic, has a breaking point. And when we dismantle the accepted mouthpieces of the elite, or rather, the fundamental acceptability of their existence, we take one more step toward their disempowerment and a better future for ourselves.